without talking to any of their directors, without talking to any of their production partners, without talking to any of their financiers, Warner Brothers, and without talking to a lot of Warner Brothers executives who, with this also caught by surprise, decided to unilaterally announce that all of their 2021 films were going to go straight to HBO Max and also play in theaters on the same day and date, instead of the traditional theatrical exclusive window and then go to streaming. This was not really all that surprising to hear, but what was surprising to hear was the part about the fact that they did it so underhanded, that they did it like a cowardly little thief in the night. They didn't give anybody who has vested interests in these movies, the producers, the financiers, the production companies, the actors, the directors, they gave none of them a heads up. And what we saw after that was this big, massive pushback from directors like Christopher Nolan, who dragged Warner Brothers over the coals. Denis Villeneuve, one of the hottest directors in the world, the director of Dune, dragged them over the coals and eviscerated them publicly. We've seen that. We've also heard directors like James Gunn, Judd Apatow, and others coming out and speaking against Warner Brothers. We've heard that their production partners, Legendary Pictures, who actually paid the money to make a couple of those movies, is going to be taking them to court. All this kind of stuff. Well, now it looks like Warner Brothers may have to backtrack a little bit on that whole, we're releasing all of our 2021 movies on HBO Max. In a report in Deadline, it basically this is what got said. The deal, because it's right now, it sounds like Legendary and Warner Brothers are negotiating to try to avoid Legendary taking Warner Brothers to court over this. So they're working out a deal. This is what is being reported in Deadline. The deal would keep Dune as a traditional theatrical release in order to maximize its franchise potential, and because it is slated for October of 2021, when COVID vaccines are expected to be widely distributed. Godzilla vs. Kong, which is the other film that Legendary financed for Warner Brothers, on the other hand, would still simultaneously be released in theaters and on HBO Max, but only if Warner shells out around $250 million or more to Legendary. That's a big deal. That's a big thing. So here's basically what's happening. All right, let's break this down. So Warner Brothers, it sounds like, in order to avoid Legendary taking them to court, and by the way, Legendary will win that court case. If that goes to court, Legendary will win. Warner Brothers knows this. And that's why they are negotiating with Legendary right now to try to work out a solution to not get taken to court. So, according to Deadline, what is on the table right now is that Warner Brothers will back off the idea that they'll release Dune on HBO Max. They won't. They'll put it into a traditional theatrical release in October when things are expected, at least what the medical professionals are telling us now, when they start to believe things will be kind of relatively back to normal. Whether they will or won't, we'll have to wait and see. But that's at least their assumption at this point. With Godzilla vs. Kong, Legendary seems willing to allow Warner Brothers to continue with their plan to put on 2021, but they want $250 million for them to do that, because $250 million is what Netflix had offered Legendary to put the movie on Netflix. Warner Brothers kiboshed the deal, and so now Legendary is saying, okay, fine, you keep that over there, but you give us that money, we were out. Because of you blocking the Netflix deal, you got to at least give us that. So that seems to be on the table as well. Okay, so it looks like Dune might be moving, and they're going to have to fork out a lot of money for Godzilla vs. Kong. Well, it's not just those movies. There's also another problem that Deadline points out. Another one of Warner Brothers' 2021 films is a Will Smith film about the father of Venus and Serena Williams. That movie that Will Smith is going to be starring in is called King Richard. Now, if the name of that movie sounds familiar, we've been talking about King Richard a lot around here lately because one of my regular guests, my friend Erin Cummings, who has not been on the show in the last few weeks because of the COVID spikes and the new regulations, but she'll be back, don't worry. We've been talking a lot about that movie because Erin Cummings is going to be playing alongside Will Smith in that film. She's going to be in that film as well, so we've been talking a lot about it. Well, it turns out that King Richard has a contractual obligation to also be in theaters. Get this. Now, this is Pop Culture who's referencing the story in Deadline. Smith's deal, this is Will Smith signed his deal, expressly calls for a theatrical only release, sources say. And while he became the first big star to sign one of those $30 million Netflix salaries plus pre-negotiated back-end deals several years ago on Bright, Warner Brothers only won the vigorous King Richard auction because its makers and the families of Venus and Serena Williams wanted to see the underdog story of their father, Richard, play on the big screen, the outlet reported. Let's read that first part again because this is incredibly important. Smith's deal, Will Smith's contractual deal with Warner Brothers, expressly calls and requires a theatrical only release, their sources say, and on top of that, the family of Richard, Venus and Serena, they only agreed to this because they wanted to make sure their movie about their dad gets played on the big screen theatrically in a proper theatrical exhibition. So we very well could be looking at a situation now where not only does Dune have to get a theatrical release now, not only does Warner Brothers now have to pony up an additional $250 million to Legendary just to put Godzilla vs. Kong on HBO Max in its original release. Now it's also looking like another one of their films, King Richard, because of Will Smith's contract, it also looks like they're going to have to backtrack on that and put it there. Now, this isn't official yet, but it looks like that's the way it's going to go. Now, here's where this can become very problematic for HBO and for Warner Brothers. Again, this is all their fault for being slimy, cowardly little, cowards, thief in the night, sneaking around behind all their partners' backs and making some big public announcement without discussing it with the people who it affects the most. If they hadn't done that, they wouldn't be in this situation right now. But here's where it can get very messy. There is already a lot of grumbling, and this is why the agencies don't want to work with Warner Brothers right now. There's a lot of grumbling going around that Wonder Woman 84, which is going straight to HBO Max on Christmas Day, they made a financial deal. Warner Brothers made a sweetheart financial deal with the Warner Brothers people, or with the Wonder Woman 84 people, particularly Patty Jenkins, Gal Gadot, and other financial interest holders, that said, we're going to pretend like Wonder Woman 84 was going to make $1 billion in the box office, and we're going to pay you all your bonuses based on $1 billion box office. And I think that's fair. But they didn't give that same deal to all the other movies either. So now you have pissed off directors, pissed off actors, pissed off finance companies, pissed off agencies, and you also have all these other movies going, how come you're not giving us our financial bonuses based on box office projections like you did for Wonder Woman 84? And here's the thing. Once you start acquiescing to some properties, it's like there are going to be other movies that go, wait a minute. You said Dune was going to go straight to HBO Max, and now you're letting them get a proper theatrical release? Well, now we want that too. Wait a minute, another movie says. You said all of our movies had to go to HBO Max, but now you're letting King Richard, the Will Smith movie, go to theatrical? We want that too. It puts Warner Brothers into a very difficult position, a position that could have been easily avoided if they had just taken the time to talk with the producers, production companies, directors, financiers, agencies. If they had just taken the time to talk to all of those people first, instead of sneaking around like a sniveling little coward behind people's backs, they could have avoided this whole situation. They could have avoided all of it. So now they're going to have an even bigger fight on their hands with the other movies. So it's going to be interesting to see how all this turns out. Again, the advantage that Dune has and the advantage that King Richard has is that they had pre-existing contractual obligations that if they get taken to court, Warner Brothers will lose. So they're going to have to bend a knee to a couple of these films. But will that cause bigger problems with the other films that also want that theatrical release? I don't know. We're going to have to see how this unfolds. It's still an evolving situation. We're going to see how it all turns out. But, I mean, right now it's kind of a mess. It will get worked out. And listen, as much as I bash on Warner Brothers for this particular move, I am a Warner Brothers fan, and I actually believe Warner Brothers has a lot of very smart people working over there. They also have some very stupid people working over there, but they also have some very smart people working there. Some of my closest friends are people that work over there, but they also have some very stupid people working there. I think they will get this all figured out and worked out. And what it will ultimately look like, I don't think we'll know probably until February. I honestly don't think we're going to get a real solid idea and indication about how this is all going to shake out and what it's all actually going to look like probably until sometime in February. At least that's my guess. But right now, Legendary has the complete upper hand. Will Smith has all the leverage because they have contracts that say this was supposed to happen with our movies and you broke those agreements. So now Warner Brothers is going to have to settle with them and negotiate before it gets to court because they will lose in court. And then that may start a domino effect with the other movies too. So I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. Question is, guys, what do you make of this whole mess right now? Do you actually think, I think it's pretty clear Dune will get its theatrical release, pandemic pending.